Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this final seminar of the Metaverse Meets the Experience Industry project, funded by Business Finland and conducted by VTT and University of Eastern Finland, and especially University of Eastern Finland Business School. It's a pleasure to have you all here, either in person here in Joensuu or connecting us through online or then seeing the recording. But we have a really interesting seminar on the future, current state and the future of the experience industry and the role of technologies and innovations within the industry. We have speakers from both of the VTT and UEF talking about different aspects of innovations and technologies in developing the metaverse and experience industry. My name is Juho Pesonen. I'm professor of tourism business here at the University of Eastern Finland and have been responsible for the UEF side of the project. And now I have a short introduction into the project, and starting, of course, with the concept of metaverse that has been one of the key concepts of this project. And of course, this project has taken for 2 years. We've been studying a lot of different topics around this topic, but we planned this project with Mika and Sari and Juha. Like I think we started like 3 years ago, back in the days when metaverse was still quite a popular topic. But nowadays, when you Google metaverse, you see something like this, for example. There was a company called Facebook that launched metaverse and even changed its name, the whole company name, into Meta in order to promote the idea of metaverse. Of course, metaverse as a technology was quite a hot topic, especially a few years ago, but recently new technologies, especially AI, has come and... Sorry? Can you guys online hear me properly?
Yes, I tried to mute all the participants.
Okay. Thank you, Katja. Great. So nowadays, and this is how technologies work. There comes technologies, then technologies go, and things change constantly because of technologies. And it's within this big picture where companies have to operate and do business. If we look at the metaverse from Google search engine trends, you can see the change even stronger. That in 2021, 2022, everybody was raging, what is metaverse, what does it do? But recently we can see that the interest in the metaverse, especially worldwide consumer interest, has dwindled and is quite a different thing from what it used to be a few years ago. And there's new technologies coming up all the time, like this analysis of Scopus database articles. These are scientific articles that are published year by year. And we can see, for example, the rapid rise of artificial intelligence and how it's now being published, let's say, 25 times more papers and scientific research on artificial intelligence than on metaverse. So it has definitely affected the phenomenon. But still, as an exercise and as an idea, metaverse is extremely interesting. It's a vision of the future that is always coming at some point. No one really knows when we are at the metaverse and even what is metaverse. This is how Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg defined the concept back in the days when they started promoting it, that there's a unique feeling of presence. You are in the metaverse with your avatars while you are still at home. You can teleport between different kind of places in the metaverse. There's different platforms that all come together and operate perfectly, seamlessly with each other. the high levels of privacy and safety issues, of course, connected to metaverse are important. You are buying virtual goods instead of physical goods, and the interaction in the metaverse feels very natural. And these were characteristics that were thought that, okay, this is gonna be the future, and this is the direction where we are going. And we are still absolutely not there. But these technologies are really interesting because all of these already exist at some level in the digital space. Now the question is, how are all of these brought together? Metaverse has also been extremely popular in academic research literature, and it has been conceptualized as the next step after virtual reality and after augmented reality. But at the same time, we are seeing that a lot of researchers, a lot of practical managers and people, practitioners, are talking synonymously of virtual reality and metaverse, which it, according to this, is not. That it's something beyond virtual reality, and those come through the technologies that are utilized in the metaverse. We are always talking about what are the metaverse technologies then? What does it mean? If we look at the technologies, and the best list of metaverse technologies that I have been able to find is from the Metaverse Standards Forum, which is a collection of organizations that are interested in developing the metaverse. And you can see all these kind of like new technologies coming up and are required for the metaverse. That even though consumer interest in the metaverse has dwindled, these technologies are still being developed, like are thousands of other technologies as well. And they are not coming all at once, but they are building blocks, like building together some kind of a puzzle. And these are some of the companies and organizations involved with the Metaverse Standard Organization, quite influential actors in that regard, and really important actors for any kind of standardization in the digital world. So these technologies are definitely worth paying attention to. Based on these technologies, they have these active domain groups on focusing on different kind of standards in different technologies. And we can really divide these groups into basically 3 dimensions of metaverse-ness, which are technical infrastructure. It needs equipment, it needs different kind of technological infrastructure to operate. User experience has to be standardized in a way. And of course, we need to have governments, institutions, and standards that define and operate, allow interoperability in the metaverse, for example. So these 3 technological streams are happening simultaneously with the metaverse, and new technologies are coming up all the time. And you can see the list of technologies that are within each of these fields. What is important here is that all of these fields are still emerging and developing, which means that it's one of the reasons why metaverse is not here just yet. If we look at what metaverse really is, it's not this kind of like a drastic change that one moment we are in virtual reality, augmented reality, or mixed reality world, and then the next we are in the metaverse. But it's more like an overlapping development of different technologies happening right now. And I would say that we are all also pretty far still from the previous step of augmented reality and virtual reality and mixed reality technologies, that you don't see people running around with virtual reality headsets, at least not anymore. There was a time when Apple launched their own virtual reality set, and there were people running around with that on their heads, but I think those times have already passed. But what is interesting for us here in this project is actually where do we go from here, that there's these new technologies coming up all the time that are affecting customer behavior, they are affecting customer expectations and customer experience, especially when we are merging the physical world with more and more technologies connected to the digital world as well. And this is the cornerstone of this project, that technologies like Metaverse might come and go. Some can be hyped. AI will be, AI is currently hyped. Maybe let's see how long that lasts. I think it's a profound change nonetheless. But the idea is that whatever we are talking about, they come and go. And what is important really is, again, coming back to old theories in business research, innovativeness. The companies need to be able to adapt to the changes happening in the marketplace. And this is what we've been studying now in this project, looking at the experience industry and its innovativeness and its capabilities, especially here in Finland. And our kind of like main question with this project is that how can we develop an experience industry here in Finland that innovates value for customers and especially for international customers. And this has been guiding principle in a way to understand both the industry, how things are regarding the innovativeness of the industry and the ecosystem currently in Finland, and how can we understand customers so that the structures and the ecosystem are able to generate value for the customers and with the customers, so that competitive advantage can be gained in Finnish experience industry. But these are, I think, pretty global phenomenons, global understanding that we are building here. So that leads us to our project and the program for today. We are going to have a presentation from Mika talking about the current state and past history of the experience industry and how do we even define what the experience industry is. Then my colleague Peng Yang will be talking about collaboration, networks and ecosystems in the current Finnish experience industry. How does our experience industry look like? What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses, especially regarding cross-industry, cross-regional collaboration opportunities? I will be putting together many of the papers and studies we've conducted in this project with our colleagues from VTT and UEF about complex service products. So if we are going towards the direction where things like Metaverse are happening, and I think increasingly going to more digital direction, these complex service products are needed and are made possible by integration and interoperability of different platforms. Then we're going to have a half-an-hour coffee break, gather some energy, and come back to Sari's and Juha's presentation on what we can learn from international examples, and especially Korean wave, and how that can inspire the future of the Finnish experience industry, or in the experience industry in any other country. We have also put together a Power BI digital platform for all of the data we have used in this project that is meant to support the decision making of regional and municipal and national actors in the experience industry. And anybody, the platform will be launched online, and anybody can look at the data and explore the data and our results in an interactive way. And Sari will be talking and demonstrating how that platform works. And then finally, we have worked together to put together a roadmap for the success of the experience industry, and also some directions for future research and development. It basically puts together all of the results, all of the ideas we've had when we've been conducting this project for the past 2 years, and presents us ideas to move forward together in close collaboration between different organizations, sectors, and regions. And basically throughout the day, we will be going through the results we've had during the past 2 years, the lessons learned, and we hope that this will be inspirational and educational for all of the participants. The presentations will last about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, so we should have good time also for discussions and questions. So please prepare any kind of topics that you would like to discuss regarding presentations so that we will be happy to answer any questions or ideas that you might yourself have. So these are not set in stone. We are still very much inspired by the topic and very much inspired by the collaboration in the experience industry, and are very open for comments and questions and new ideas that we might have overlooked something. So all kinds of feedback is more than welcome and really helps the project finalize the mission that we've been on. Good. We are still on time schedule. So I would like to invite Mika here as our first speaker, talking about experience industry as a concept and as a sector.
Good. Thank you, Johan. I said I'm Mika. I'm coming from VTT, from Quantitative Science and Technology Studies team there. When compiling this presentation, I realized that, well, this is actually kind of my personal journey to this experience industry, how it has developed and evolved over this 2-year period we have been working on this project. I'm also, besides VTT, affiliated at Statistics Finland, and their companies are described based on their NACE codes, toimialakoodi in Finnish. And in principle, these NACE codes, they describe a company and its businesses with one figure. And of course, one can see and realize that that can't really be true, because companies, they typically do very many different things. And it's typically so that when companies registered, it gives that, okay, we will be in this business, and so the NACE code is dedicated to it. But of course, the business evolves. Statistics Finland will kind of correct NACE codes for the biggest firms, because they are compiling the national product for Finland, and so it's important that the kind of business sectors go to right place. Anyway, the idea was that, so how could we describe these businesses better, especially on this kind of new concept as experience industry? So we compiled a kind of company population with some restrictions and limitations. We wanted them to have some measurable business, meaning turnover of at least 50,000 euros per year, be companies. So we selected some kind of affiliations or kind of osakeyhtiö, kommandiittiyhtiö type of legal forms, and also selected kind of a first set of NACE codes where we thought that, okay, if a company operates in experience industry, it should be on one of these industry areas. And these industry codes came from international benchmarks, especially from the UK and the Netherlands, where some research was done on early 2000 on these issues. Then when using the Statistics Finland data, it has a very nice feature that companies may belong to a concern. And so when summing up companies, their number of employees, revenues, etc., together, it's important that they remain as separate entities so that we wouldn't sum up figures over and over again. Here is an example of Sanoma Oyj, how it has two limited companies under this concern structure, and then those limited companies again have other limited companies on their structure. So when using Statistics Finland data, we don't need to worry about that feature. Unfortunately, the use of Statistics Finland yritysrekisteri is kind of restricted. So when using when showing the Power BI results, we have used kind of a commercial database, Orbis, but we selected that, okay, on a big picture, these figures remain the same. But it's good to keep in mind that depending on the data source, there can be some minor differences. Then I mentioned these NACE codes and how they kind of link to a certain sectors in this experience industry. So this was our starting point. We had 12 sectors, and these kind of, let's say the first 7, they date back to those previous studies that were done in the UK and the Netherlands, mainly on the topic creative industry. And there you can see that there are 2 columns, 100% and according to keywords. This 100% means that on our process, when talking about a company, we, based on generative AI and kind of from multiple sources, we try to describe the company by keywords, saying that, okay, this company does these 10 different things, and then what were the main issues or main business areas, and what then less important. Tied those keywords. Yes.
In a Finnish translation in this context or experience industry, as there has been a long discussion over many years, what are creative industries in Finnish? So what would be the suitable translation in Finnish for the experience industry you're using here?
Juho knows the answer for that because he took some work on that.
This works great. Yeah, that's an excellent question about this terminology that we are using. That are we talking about the same things or not? And experience industry is much more than creative industries. That we know. Creative industries are really important part. Eli luovat alat. In Finnish, it's I would say elämysteollisuus. That we see that all of the industries that are interested in the experiences of consumers and are connected to consumer experiences, and not just services, but beyond services into experiences. And I think this distinction is one of the driving ideas of the work that Mika has been now doing, that there are not all companies, not all service companies are experience industry companies, and we are trying to define that which companies are kind of like focused more on experiences than services, and how do we measure that. And I think hopefully that answers your question, or at least gives some answers for Mika to continue. Thank you.
So thank you. So the kind of key point here is that on these, especially on these event-related sectors 11 and 12, there are kind of a number of NACE codes industries that are described other services or other businesses in this area. So of course we need to find among those companies on those industries the one whose business relates to experience industry, and that was done by these keywords, and then only that percentage of the business that relates to experience in industry was taken into account. I mentioned this generative AI, and we actually noticed that how much these large language models have evolved even less than a year. So last July 2024, this was the situation. What were the kind of large language models that were kind of used at that time? So we asked those companies that, okay, could you please tell me about the business of this company X? And then based on that, did the kind of distinction to these 12 sectors in experience industry. Altogether, we had around 44,000 companies on our sample, and we found keywords based on these like around 37,000 companies. And of course, we always had this ability to use the NACE code. And in the process, then we did a kind of number of sensitivity studies about, okay, how reliable is that the description the large language model gave, what kind of weighting should we use to get a real kind of description of the business, etc., etc. So what we came up after that process was that the experience industry in Finland is over in 2023 around 26.5 billion euros, miljardi in Finnish. There are almost 24,000 firms operating in that industry, and I must emphasize here that we took this limit of 50,000 euros as an annual turnover. If we had dropped that limitation, there would have been, I guess, over 100,000 companies. So it's important to always remember that, okay, what is the volume and limits when we are talking about experience industry, because there are very many small players. And the same applies to the number of persons who are employed by these companies. So when we take the limit that, okay, how many persons there are on these companies who earn more than 10,000 euros per year, we get this figure of 115,000 persons. Then we can see also the kind of time series, how these sectors have evolved over time, and especially here on the event-related areas, we can see this drop on COVID-19 years. And actually, it was the year 2020 that was the worst year, 2021, not 2020 when the COVID kind of took off. And when talking about the number of persons employed by these sectors, we can't see that drop. And actually, when getting to the statistical analysis, we can see the same thing. The actual drop was only on this food and beverage industry. We can also kind of see whether the drop on the employment was kind of on full-time employees or on part-time employees. So here these columns kind of depict whether the person or employee earned between 1,000 or 10,000 euros, from 10 to 25,000 euros, or over 25,000 euros, which one can think that, okay, that's then a full-time employee. And on this food and beverage, we can see that these are, quite small, these figures, but there was a drop on these full-time employees. There was a drop on these part-time employees also, but not that big. And then the same, we can also calculate the added value and then the kind of the share of added value of the turnover. And again, here we can So we didn't see that much a drop on corona years on the number of employees, but on this added value, we can clearly see a drop on a number of sectors. Okay, that completed the where I was like a year ago. So what is experience industry? And that was kind of a picture I got myself from, okay, this kind of activities and these firms, and this is about the size of it. And then I started to ask myself that, okay, so what can we learn from this? What would be the policy implications? Can we kind of learn anything from that? That okay, we know that these companies operate on experience industry. So what would be the policy implications of that? And then I started to ask that okay, well, we have this granular classification of companies. So with this understanding, can we kind of give a better explanation how COVID affected Finnish firms? And then we remembered that, okay, government made a number of decisions, some negative, some positive. Negative, they locked down some businesses, but on the other hand, they gave COVID subsidies. So did those actions had any effect? And so I came up with these 5 or 6 hypotheses about the stability of the business areas, and then kind of some statistical measures. I will get back to those. But the key point was that I kind of compared the NACE industry code based understanding to this kind of AI enhanced understanding of the company's businesses, and wanted to see whether there was any kind of difference how well these 2 models described what happened to these companies, 40,000 companies in the area. Since there are very many companies in the area, we did what's called Winsorization. So here are the kind of dependent variables we tried to explain. So we wanted to explain the change in the revenue, change in the number of employees, and change in the number of added value. And of course, if there is a very small revenue and it increases from 50,000 to 100,000, that is a 100% increase. And similarly, if there is a drop, and we wanted to get rid of those outliers. So here you can see the kind of limit values. If the business dropped on 2018 more, let's say 70%, it was kind of cut that, okay, it's 52% at maximum that we calculate. So this was the way to get rid of the extremes. Then what we wanted to know, we had 2 years before the COVID, 2018 and 19. Then we had these COVID years, 20 and 21, and then 2 years after COVID, 22 and 23. So we wanted to know that, okay, how in these experience industry sectors, how did they do before, during, and after the COVID? And we had some kind of control variables. I mentioned already these COVID subsidies. Did those have any effect? Whether there was a difference that if the company was owned by a foreign owner, perhaps they wouldn't care that much of keeping employees occupied, or whether if it was owned by a public authority, perhaps they were kind of willing to keep the employees at work. So did that have any effect? The size of the company, the location of the company, and then kind of how the regional business was doing. So the average kind of increase or decrease on gross national product on the regional level. So these were kind of controlling the business. And then this lockdown. And here, this is again not a kind of strict values, but kind of shows the how large we expected or kind of assumed the lockdown effect to be on a certain region, on a certain COVID year, on certain experience industry sector. This E2 refers to audiovisual, and then from E9 to E12 are these event-related industries, so hotels, beverages, organizing activities, and performing on those activities. And what we found out, so the COVID clearly had an effect. In these slides, these red colors show a drop, a negative value, and green shows a positive value, and then the kind of colored brown or orange shows if the change is statistically significant. Then we have kind of a national figures, these columns here, and then more kind of detailed regional figures based on the establishments on different parts in Finland. Like you can think that, for example, a hotel chain, it may have its headquarters in Helsinki. And so all the kind of business figures on company level, they go to Uusimaa, Helsinki-Uusimaa region. So we are talking about this left side here. But then on this kind of establishment level analysis, then we try to allocate the business of that hotel chain to the real places where those hotels are. And of course, that can give, the hypothesis is that that gives a kind of better picture about how the business was doing. And then you can see here this model 0 is this kind of NACE code related calculation, whereas the kind of this model LLM is the AI enhanced calculation. So we can see that the COVID years was quite bad, but then on the change on the number of employees, there are actually on this better model. So I see the best model to be this AI enhanced establishment level regional model. Actually, there wasn't a drop on the number of employees, and I guess that makes a sense on that way that actually the activities government did to give the people at work really worked. Although the business was doing really bad, as we can see from the drop on the revenue. I have used my time. I just saw the, yes, this is the where we have this lockdown effect and COVID subsidy. So when talking about this, on my mind, better figures, we can see that this lockdown effect clearly had a statistically significant negative effect on the businesses. But then again, kind of surprisingly, if a company got COVID subsidy, its revenue dropped. But I interpret that on that way that the COVID subsidy really kind of found those companies that were in challenges and in problems, and on that way worked as it should have. Because when we see this change in the number of employees, there we have this green color. So I interpret on that this way that, okay, COVID subsidy found the companies that had to, the revenue disappeared from them, but they were able to keep their employees, didn't kind of get rid of them. So very good on that sense. Do I want to show anything else here? Not really. So to sum up, clearly this kind of AI enhanced model can add value to how we understand how companies are doing on times of crisis, especially when we kind of combine that understanding to this kind of regional position of the companies. Especially on COVID time, there were differences whether we were talking about Helsinki-Uusimaa region, where the COVID restrictions were quite strict, or Northern and Eastern Finland, where there were not that much restrictions, but of course they didn't get kind of tourists from abroad because of the kind of restrictions on travel. So they were hurt also, but not in the same way as Helsinki-Uusimaa. So it seems that the combination of these two elements is pretty gives quite a good picture. And then as an outcome of the analysis relating to them, it seems that the kind of policy outcome, what was done during the COVID time, makes sense and really helped those companies that were in trouble and helped them to keep their employees at work. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mika. Really good to have this data, so we are prepared for the next COVID and know what to do better when we encounter or cause some issues or encounter some issues for the experience industry, or it can be basically any kind of external shock that might affect the industry. And we can see that experience industry especially was the one that was impacted quite a lot by COVID, and the revenue numbers dropped drastically, but then the employment numbers were not that much affected because of the support that the government and policymakers were giving for the companies working in the industry. So I think that's very good knowledge to have when we are thinking about future preparedness in the experience industry. Any questions from the participants here in Joensuu or online for Mika? All right, excellent. Then we thank Mika for the presentation and move forward with Peng's findings. Oh, I don't need this. Findings about the collaboration in experience industry. Do you want to use your own computer or? Okay. Yep. No, you can put it here.
I share here.
And just no, you can just put full screen.
Okay. I can also use this one. Okay. Yes, thank you. My name is Peng Yan from University of Eastern Finland. I'm here focused on this Finland experience industry from the network perspective. We do two parts. The first is the basic network of all these companies in Finland experience industry. And we have a second network analysis focused on the innovations. First, we collect 8,234 companies from the Amadeus data set concerning all these companies are included in the Finland experience industry. In here, I want to, because show you some basic idea how we do this collection. I can show you here. I just want to show you here. For example, we go to here we show you the example Business Finland. We go to the Business Finland website. So all website has a lot of hyperlinks. So we select all the hyperlinks from the Business Finland. You can see here, we have 11 nodes. They have a very high connection to the Business Finland. All of them, they have the arrow towards Business Finland. That means these companies from these companies' website, they have hyperlinks to Business Finland. But if we move the edge to smaller size, we want to also see which company goes from Business Finland towards outside. In the lower edge, the edge by 3, you can see here, still most of the companies, they have connection to Business Finland, but Business Finland doesn't have a lot of connection to them backwards. But we can still can see some few companies here. For example, one is called Tieto Eviri. So they have the Business Finland. They have connection to this company, and also here we can see another one, Nokia.com, and here also have one called Bitum.com. So this is the basic idea. We want to create a network, hyperlinks network connection in the Finland experience industry. And we go back to the network analysis. We have the 8,234 companies, and in this network, we have 148,000 edges. The degree associativity, that means we try to collect how attributes depend on these degrees. The result is minus 0.135. So the degree doesn't make too much the characters attribution to this network. The sector has 0.15. It's quite okay. And the region associativity is a little bit more high than the sector's associativities. That means the company's network, they are more characterized by the region than by sectors. The overall reciprocity is 0.125. It's not that high. That means the whole industry network is not so well connected. And here we divide this network from 2 parts. One is by the sector, another one is by the region. Following the MEGA's classification, we here use the 12 sectors to compose of this Finland experience industry. Here, the event sector is the largest one because even here we include a lot of different sub-sectors. And followed by events is activities, art, culture, and recreations. The smallest one is the gaming industry. Only few industries collected in the Finland experience industry. In terms of the regional distribution, you can see here the Uusimaa region. It's more than half of the companies. They are located in Uusimaa region. The only one region take up more than half of the whole Finland experience industry. And follow Uusimaa is Pirkanmaa. And you can see the smallest region here in terms of the amount of the companies in the Finland experience industry is Ahvenanmaa. And then it's Kainuu and Keski-Pohjanmaa. They are quite small regions in terms of Finland experience industry. So the distribution is very power low. You can see one big region and many small regions in Finland. We will talk more this network analysis soon. Now we see in terms of individual companies or organizations, who are the leading or who are the cooperating one. You can see from the in degree centrality, the Yle.fi is the highest one. has the highest in degree centrality. That means they have a lot of companies connection towards the yle.fi. Following yle.fi is the Business Finland.fi. And now we go to the cooperation. We use the network analysis metrics called reciprocity. You can see here, that means one company, they have age go outside from the company to another company, and also they have the return back links from the same companies. Now you can see the yle is not the number one here. Actually, the number one is the visit rovaniemi.fi. And probably you can find the pattern here. A lot of these local DMO, the destination organizations, they are quite reciprocal websites. You can see levi.fi, visit tampere.fi, and visit savonlinna.fi. They are quite high reciprocal websites. Now we try to use the EI index to calculate the regional or sector cooperation leaderships and followerships. The EI index is like how many links go outside from one region. For example, like Uusimaa, how many links go outside the Uusimaa minus how many links go inside the Uusimaa region, divided by the external links plus these internal links. You can see here, it's still obvious. Most of the regions that have positive values here, EI index to the region Uusimaa. That means they have a lot of the connection to the Uusimaa region. But from Uusimaa's perspective, the highest connected region is Pirkanmaa. Here it's minus 0.73. The lowest one is to Ahvenanmaa. It's almost like no age, like it's minus 0.99. It means like almost there's no connection goes from Uusimaa to Ahvenanmaa. Sorry, it's very difficult to pronounce. Ahvenanmaa region. So, except for the region from Uusimaa or towards Uusimaa, the rest of the regions in Finland, we can see the highest one is minus 0.33. It's from the Pohjanmaa to this Keski-Pohjanmaa. So they have 3 Pohjanmaas here, I remember correctly. They are quite highly connected. So in terms of larger regions, they have kind of strong connections, but between the 19 regions in Finland, it's not so strongly connected, except for the Uusimaa. Now how do we calculate the cross-region or cross-sector cooperation? We use the EI index. We averaged all the EI index towards our regions to calculate the followership. In another way around, we calculate the average of the EI index from our regions to calculate the influencership. The cooperatorship is quite easy. We just plus the followership with the influencership and divide it by 2. Here we can see the region Uusimaa is the leader in terms of this network analysis, and also the cooperator. The lowest one is the influencership is Keski-Pohjanmaa, and they have the highest followership. That means they have a lot of connection outside the region towards another regions, so they does not lead in the network. It follows the same type, also in terms of the financial metrics. So the Uusimaa followed by this Varsinais-Suomi and then Keski-Suomi and Pirkanmaa. They are the first 4 leading regions. Now we go to another network analysis we call innovative potential networks. In this network, based on the basic one, we try to measure how these companies, they have more innovative potential. So the network innovative potential is measured by, we call Semelian brokerage. It's here showed Y here is a dependent variable. And then we use X, like fixed effects. Fixed effects means technology, social, and cloud. Here, technology most focus on the ICT companies, like technology, information technology companies. Social here means social media, like Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Cloud means cloud computing companies, like Amazon Cloud or Microsoft Cloud storage companies. So this is the fixed effect. We already have a theoretical background to support all these fixed effects. Mostly they have a positive effect on the innovative potential. But we try to find out how does the region and sector affect this innovative potential. So we use the region and sector as a random effect, not fixed effect here. From the LLM model, you can see here, the sector model, the ICC intra-class correlation coefficient is 0.024. So the sector ICC is a little bit higher than by the regional model. The regional model is 0.0002. It's very small. That means the region doesn't affect too much the innovative potential compared to the sector perspective. And then we also have the intersection between the sector and the region. For example, like Lapland, we have Lapland by region, also hotel by the sector. Then we have the third one called SR mode. We have Lapland and the hotel. So the SR model also have 0.2 ICC. It's quite similar to the sector model, a little bit higher than the regional model. Based on the sector random effect, you can see here, the broadcast and publish, they have a very high, the highest baseline effect on the innovative potential. The lowest one is the hotel and food industry. Then from the region perspective, this Ahvenanma, they had the highest one for the regional random effect towards this innovation potentials. And the lowest one is Lapi here. The Lapland has very low, the lowest baseline effect on the innovative potential. Probably they have a lot of business in the hotel and the restaurant sectors. At last, we have a sector and region intersection random effect. You can see here. The highest one is the broadcast published sector in the Uusimaa region. They have the highest random effect towards the innovation potential. The most lowest one still here in the sector hotel food, like the region Uusimaa or this Pohjois-Pohjanmaa, they have the lowest random effect. So based on our analysis, we can see the Uusimaa region plays lion's share and a central role in the network. Most of the companies located in the Uusimaa region and also the connections goes to Uusimaa or from Uusimaa regions. The overall corporateship value are less than 0.5, minus 0.5. That means most of the business, they have a network connected inside the region, not between the regions in the whole Finland. So we would recommend to have more inter-regional cooperation in Finland experience industries in the future. That will be created a more higher connected ecosystems. And in terms of innovative networks, the regions like Lappi and Salagunda, they have very low baseline brokerage. So in these kind of regions, they do not have a lot of potential to improve the innovation, or they do not have a lot of connections to the digital companies or social media companies or cloud computing companies. Similar sectors, as I mentioned before, the hotel and the food service might require some support, or they just focus on themselves. They do not have a lot of connection outside towards these digital companies. So all this one, probably we need some cooperation cross regional and also cross the sector cooperation to drive a more connected Finland experience industry systems. Yes, that's all. Thank you.
Any questions for Peng about the network? There was one question here in the chat from Hanna Laak about, I told about the data sources, but are the activity businesses actually located in Uusimaa or just the companies registered there, but they operate elsewhere, for example, in Lapland?
Yes. Here we only collect the website, for example, like scandic.fi or yle.fi. They have many businesses across the whole Finland, but here we only located them in Uusimaa region based on their headquarters.
Great. Any other questions for Peng? I noticed, and we discussed this quite a lot, the sectoral differences in innovation potential, however you want to call it, and that the hotels and restaurants have very low connection with technology companies.
Yes.
Is there some kind of a reason for that, or do you think that these companies are not that technologically advanced companies, or how would you interpret that?
Yes. And at the very beginning, we saw they don't have a lot of high connection to the high technology companies. But after we also collect these interviews from the hotel business, we realized the big companies like so-called Scandic, they have their own internal innovative department, some kind like that. So they do some creation inside. So from the outside, we cannot see what happened inside. So it doesn't mean they are not innovative.
Mm. And that's very good to know and good to keep in mind when interpreting the numbers, that there's always a lot of stories behind the numbers. I also noticed that companies in Pohjanmaa are kind of like Pohjanmaa regions are more strongly connected with each other than, for example, regions in Eastern Finland.
Yes.
I just found that because we are always talking about how companies in Pohjanmaa are innovative and collaborative, and you can actually see that in the data that there's more cross-regional collaboration in Pohjanmaa than, for example, in Eastern Finland.
Yes, the Pohjanmaa, they really connect each other. The three Pohjanmaas connect each other quite strongly. Yes, but the Eastern Finland, I think maybe they have a different diverse sectors or business. Yes.
Yeah, there was this notion that that sectors are more important for like technological innovation than regions. That basically it doesn't matter which region you are operating in, you still have the potential to utilize technologies and are able to connect with technology companies. And I think this is really important that, for example, startups can come up from all of the regions, and successful digital innovations can come from all of the regions. And I think that's also very important to very important conclusion from the analysis that you've been doing.
Yes, the sector they have more affected in the region. Yes, so it really depends on which kind of business you are doing. It doesn't matter too much where you located.
Yeah. I also noticed that Yle is really popular, that
Very
many companies are connecting to Yle, and now Yle budgets have been cut. And like based on this data, I would say that Yle is quite an important player for companies and experience industry companies. Yes. As well, that many companies are connecting and using materials from Yle, or how they are connected to Yle, because this is a service that Yle is actually providing for companies, and it's not just like a cultural service, but also it has a business meaning.
A lot of companies, they have connection to Yle for information source. So they want to share some information or share some news. So they have the link to the Yle. For example, the Yle, they published some news about their own companies. So they try to make them more public to get a more audience. And also the second one, Business Finland.fi here. So many companies, like we specifically check the Visit Tampere. They have a lot of this connection to the Business Finland, because they try to use their photo bank and also some information. So they have a lot of connection towards Business Finland. But it doesn't mean Business Finland will have a connection backwards to the Visit Tampere, but it's like only one-way connection. So that's what we show here. Integrated centrality is also only means they have a lot of inverse connections. Yes.
Yeah, and Business Finland is requiring all of the companies to, if they are funded by Business Finland, you should be linking to Business Finland website.
If you are interested, you can go to this our temporary website. You can select any companies here. You can see, for example, we show the Business Finland here in the center. Most of the age is towards Business Finland. Only few ages go outside from Business Finland. Only, for example, Nokia.fi and PRH.fi. And I forgot here is another one, Tieto Every. Yes.
So it means that Business Finland is providing services for all of these companies that it's linking. Okay, great.
Yeah, sometimes the company, they have fund from Business Finland, they also have this hyperlinks on their own website. Yes.
Excellent. Very interesting. Yes. Any questions from the audience about collaboration or something else you picked up from the presentation? Yes, please use this one.
You saw the collaboration between Pohjois-Pohjanmaa and Keski-Pohjanmaa, but did you notice anything concerning that Oulu is going to be the cultural capital of Europe of 2026? So were there any remarks concerning this position and maybe the innovation potential in Oulu region due to this role they will have next year?
Here we actually don't calculate this contextual background here in our analysis, because we mainly use only the hyperlinks. So this means we don't know what's going on behind this connection. For example, before we did the interviews with companies, we thought, okay, the hotel business, they are not innovative because they don't connect to outside. They do everything inside themselves. But actually, when you deep inside, then you figure out they have their own innovative systems. They just don't show publicly. But our data set, mostly you can access publicly. Yes.
But you have also analyzed municipal level data, right? A little bit. So we have data about businesses located in different cities and biggest like 40 cities in Finland. But our data is already like 2 to 3 years old. So I think like this Oulu thing is happening right now and in the future, like in the next few years. And of course we have hopes and some plans to collect longitudinal data about this, so that we would see, for example, that then if we would able to collect this longitudinal data, how this network develops over the years, then we will be able to examine that kind of phenomenon really well, that how companies in Oulu are building networks when this event is happening compared to other regions or similar sized cities. But let's see if we are able to do that.
Yes.
So that would be really, really nice.
Nice result to see how
Yes.
of this type of roles they will earn and gain,
Yes.
and how the regions will grow and develop through the, for example, being cultural.
Yeah, how regions will develop with cultural capital like this. There's been quite a lot of research on the impacts of cultural capital for regions, and I think this is kind of like a dimension that's often overlooked. This kind of like how it connects people and how it connects organizations. That we are looking very much on concrete data like number of international tourists and stuff like this, and how that continues after the cultural capital year. But what we have really found in this project, and what a lot of earlier research has also found out, that it's actually these connections, these networks that are kind of like one of the most important resources companies and organizations can have nowadays. And of course, the cultural capital is really could be a potential source of these relationships and connections that then later on can yield innovations and new products and services. So that would be really interesting to study.
Yes.
You have some data there, or?
Yes. We like now we are already scrape like 40,000 companies in Finland in 2023. We hope we can still continue doing this like once a year. Maybe then we can see the change. Yes, maybe 2024 then 2025. How this connection changed in like in a longitude time series. Yes,
that would be really cool, but requires quite a lot of work to update this kind of huge network on even on annual basis. Not to mention even like even accurate.
It was like before I discussed with you. It was easier to collect data, but now since the AI comes, a lot of companies they block the collections. Many companies, when you scrape data, they just show alarm. So now it's quite more difficult than before. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you,
you.
Peng. Really interesting stuff. Yeah. And now, continuing with even more data and results that we have identified regarding collaboration. Kind of like one of the background ideas of the project was that if metaverse ever comes up, you know, it's connecting digital and it's connecting physical, and the experiences or the companies that are producing these experiences typically need to collaborate with other companies in order to bring different platforms together, meaning that they need to develop complex service products. And from kind of like this metaverse idea has fueled our interest in this complex service product development, and especially the concept of never-ending experiences, which comes from never-ending tourism concept studied, for example, by Barbara Neuhofer and her colleagues. But what does it really require to organize these complex service products, and how ready are we at this moment? How ready is our ecosystem and collaboration to enable providing these complex service products that connect regions, that connect actors across different industries? So in addition to what Peng was just presenting, we are looking at even more data to understand this phenomenon. Of course, we want to, you know, we've been talking about digitalization and digital transformation for decades already, so it's not a new phenomenon, but we are still seeing that technology and the role of technology is increasing in our everyday life, and especially in experiences. Of course, we have digital detox experiences that are kind of like the counterbalance for increasing digitalness in experiences. But mobile phones and maybe in the future these additional wearable AI devices will be affecting and are affecting the experience and how we perceive the world around us and how do we experience it. So there is a need for companies to utilize these technologies and new opportunities in a way that creates unique and competitive experiences, especially from the customer value perspective. And this idea of connecting physical with digital is one of the cornerstones of never-ending tourism and never-ending experience that is then continued from Prodinger's and Neuhoff's work. And the idea is it's very much kind of like branding and brand loyalty, that you are interacting with the experience provider, with the experience all the time in different channels, and tourism can be one part of this, but it's not the main part. The main part is everything around a phenomenon and whatever this phenomenon might be. And for example, Sari and Juha will be talking later on about Korean wave, which is one of the concrete examples of how a never-ending experience might look like in practice. But nonetheless, for our research, we take the statement that experiences are built on understanding customers and ecosystems that co-create value with the customer. So we need both customer understanding as well as understanding of the ecosystem that is providing those services that create or co-create value with the customers. And now we have analyzed different kinds of data sets that we have available in Finland for experience industry at this very moment, and studied how they help us to understand either the experience industry ecosystem, like Peng just demonstrated, or understand customers, the people who would be interested in the services that Finnish experience industry ecosystem is able to provide. First, we have, for some reason, it's not working properly. Give me a second. Yeah, I'll just do this. It's somehow. And for example, one of the main sources of understanding customers in tourism is TripAdvisor. And this is one of the data analyses that Peng conducted a while ago, where he basically scraped all of the reviews that were published about Finnish attractions, restaurants, hotels, things to do on TripAdvisor during this whole period that TripAdvisor has been operating. And we have almost 450,000 reviews there. So you can imagine what kind of treasure trove of customer understanding, especially for tourism, this data is. And of course, there's a lot of services that enable you to analyze and understand this on a hotel specific or an attraction specific level. But rarely you see this kind of combination of all of the data that we have available. And some of the things to point out and what are interesting is to look at a number of things that are reviewed on TripAdvisor. And we can see it's basically Helsinki and Rovaniemi, Helsinki and Lappi, actually Helsinki and Lappi, that are by far the most popular, that they have the most amount of different restaurants and hotels and attractions that TripAdvisor users have ever reviewed. And there's also some in Tampere or Pirkanmaa and Varsinais-Suomi and Turku. They are visible also on the map, but otherwise quite small amounts of reviews. But Helsinki is by far, and Uusimaa by far, the biggest. What's interesting here is that Lappi is the second biggest by far, and it has so much more reviews than, for example, Varsinais-Suomi or Pirkanmaa, that it's interesting. And also that the average of the reviews is really, really high. So it's almost 4.5, and in that way, Lappi is on a completely different level from the rest of Finland and all of the other destinations in Finland, that the experiences that they are providing, that tourism infrastructure that is in Lappi is actually providing great experiences for tourists going there. And one of the reasons for this is high proportion of things to do in Lappi. So all of the big cities, more than half of the things that people are reviewing on TripAdvisor are restaurants. This is everywhere else except in Lapland, where it's about 1/3 is restaurants, 1/3 is hotels, and 1/3 is attractions and things to do. And this is from the tourism perspective really interesting, that all of the other destinations are kind of like standard and based on the population size and activities and so on, but Lappi is really out there in a category of itself. Of course, analyzing all of the reviews and the textual analysis would bring even more insights into the understanding of tourists, but already this is quite an insightful data to have. Then there's Keski-Pohjanmaa and Etelä-Karjala that also are quite good with the experience and average ratings, and then it goes down quite a lot as we go forward. Then we also have available a company called Salmi Platform that we are working with in this project, and especially our colleagues like Paul Windrum and Matthias de Jouere have analyzed the data that Salmi Platform has on events in Finland. And we would consider that events is one of the examples of complex service products, that how many different things you have to bring there before the trip, during the trip, and after the trip to make the events happen. So understanding events and understanding event goers is quite important for understanding how customers are doing in the experience industry in Finland. And Salmi dataset allows us to do that. And Matthias and Paul analyzed and identified 10 different, so we had 14,000 visitors to different events in Finland, and we have understanding of their expenditure, socio-demographics, satisfaction, and so on and so on, some understanding of how they are. And they identified altogether 10 different event goer segments or groups of people who go to Finnish events. And based on Salmi data, by far the biggest two groups are young Finnish women on short entertainment-focused trips and younger Finnish women visiting North Österbotten to spend time with family and relatives. So I think this is also that the data is not completely representative of all of the events in Finland. It's collected in some of the events, but there's still quite a lot of data. Also interesting are Finnish families with children less than 18 years old, often participating in sports event, and parents know that yes, that's me. I can relate to that. I do a lot of trips like that. So no wonder it comes so strongly. But it also allows us this kind of data to understand, for example, economic impact of events. And for example, entertainment events seem to attract the highest average daily spending. So on average, people are spending almost 10 euros more than per day per person compared to our reference group, which in this case was sport events. So when you are, and I think especially these young Finnish women on short entertainment focus trips, that when you are going out, then you're going out and you're spending a lot of money and eating and dining and having activities and enjoying time. We can also see some differences between regions. For example, Pirkanmaa region has by far the highest daily expenditure, with Lapland following, and it's more about the event type. So if there's a lot of entertainment events organized, like in Pirkanmaa especially, that explains why there is so much spending ongoing. So it matters if you're making policy decisions, what kind of events to support, that different events have indeed different kind of local economic impact. And we can also examine expenditure by social groups with large tourist group being the lowest daily spender. Of course, that they are having services and accommodation in a way that they get good deals, for example, that they are not spending that much money. But really in-depth understanding of the event goers as well. Then we also have a border survey, Matkailija-mittari, that's collected by Visit Finland, which basically reaches and allows us to understand international tourists coming to Finland and how much they are spending and what kind of impact they have. Not that much on the experience per se, but more about their behavior and impacts of international tourism in Finland. And especially the emission impact, if we want to develop experience industry in a sustainable way, Matkailija-mittari really helps us to understand the tourism industry and tourists regarding, for example, emissions and their daily spend. And what is especially interesting regarding this is that if you analyze, there's 15,000 surveys collected for Matkailija-mittari, and if you compare different spending groups, that how much people spend for their trip in Finland, what's their local economic impact, we can see that there's a big correlation with emissions, that the more you spend, the more emissions you cause. But the correlation is in a way inverse, that the people who spend the most, even though they are causing the most emissions, the emissions compared to economic impact ratio, the last column here, is the best. So if you want to optimize the local income with minimizing the emissions, then the more people spend money, the highest spending groups are actually the best from this perspective. And then we have also conducted analyses understanding not just the customers, but also additional understanding of the ecosystem. And our colleague Elina Tiitinen examined all of the current regional strategies in Finland from this experience industry perspective, and how strongly which regions are prioritizing experience industry or different aspects of experience industry, and in which ways in their regional strategies. We can see South Karelia, Pirkanmaa, Satakunta, and South Ostrobothnia being the regions where was clear focus in the regional strategies for experience industries and its ideas. But the challenge we encountered was that the terminology was not always clear, in a way that different regional strategies were using different terms and different aspects of the experience industry. So it might be useful to have similar kind of language and terms, like we had here one question from the audience, that really the terms are important and how we define them. So some kind of unified national framework could be helpful in that. And then we have been also talking with policymakers during this project about smart specialization. And the idea of regional strategies is, of course, that the region has some kind of resources and capabilities that enable it to specialize in a certain thing where it has competitive advantage in creating and producing. And connection between experience industry resources and smart specialization is something that is under discussion, in a way that many regions haven't really isolated the resources that they have that are unique, that would enable them to specialize in the experience industry. And of course, something evident in the regional strategies were also skill gaps, and I think this is not news for anybody, but of course you need good knowledgeable people, you need networked people to take the fields forward, and many of the regions are clearly struggling in finding the right kinds of people and with key skills that to develop innovation in this field. And the last study we've conducted regarding this ecosystem understanding is innovation processes. Innovation processes in the experience industry. And Elina conducted 18 interviews with experience interview companies across Finland. And we have big companies, small companies across regions in different kind of situations. And we identify that there's a lot of contextual factors that affect experience industry innovations and how innovations come to be. But something that we found from basically all of the interviews was the role of trust in kind of like providing a platform for innovation, that when you are collaborating with somebody, doing new things with somebody, the first thing has to be established is trust. And very often trust is established by personal relationships and especially physical connections. So even though we have these fantastic digital channels and even the metaverse, sometimes the role of personal relationships and how those are built and developed and fostered really is influential for innovations. If we want to do new stuff, new initiatives, then this kind of personal relationships really has to be fostered. And especially across sectors and across regions, which is still happening relatively seldom. Some of the things that came out from the interviews were that the funding should reward more of this relationship building, network development, and collaboration over long-term project times. Something that you would be able to invest in longer time and have more time to conduct these innovations. Then the network funding and network building. So, and I know Business Finland is already conducting and doing a lot of these kind of activities. But the interviews and the interviewees really highlighted this importance of network building in this project and as an outcome of the project as well. And how kind of like if we are looking for innovations in the experience industry, then most of the innovations really come from the different kinds of people who typically don't encounter each other, meet and start working together. And this kind of cross-industry, cross-regional collaborations that are not commonplace should be fostered more. And then, of course, physical and digital infrastructure to foster collaboration and provide different kind of funding models for new relationship, testing out different things would help a lot in creating innovations in the experience industry. And to sum up, what was the main outcome of these interviews was that in the experience industry, the innovation process is rarely like goal-oriented research, development, and then innovation. It's more happening by chance in a way, in a serendipitous way that some people meet somewhere, start talking, find out that they have common interest, and then start working together. And there's no plan in a way for developing innovations, but it's more about keeping your eyes open and developing your networks, meeting people that actually result then in innovations, both in process innovations, that the organization works better, as well as service or product innovations that we bring something new to the market or even new to the company. And this kind of innovation process and how we foster and develop it seems to be really, really important for the experience industry companies. So I think that's kind of like the main conclusion from the process perspective from the data that we have collected. This difference that maybe the RDI process is not the optimal way how experience industry innovates. And it might be, one of the reasons might be that people working in the experience industry really like to be with other people, that it might attract people who are already people oriented. And then it's not a surprise that innovations also happen in this people oriented way. There's some things that funding mechanisms can do to enhance this kind of collaboration, and especially this, like, we do a lot of collaboration that is taken for granted, and that's like everyday collaboration, but that doesn't really yield innovations. It does normal business like supplier buyer relationship and stuff like this. That typically innovations happen when different kind of organizations, different kind of people who don't typically come together actually meet and start working together. And that's also connected, of course, to complex service product development. That happens because of something that customer needs. And rarely one company can offer everything a customer needs, but it needs to innovate something with other companies and organizations in order to provide customers what they really need and what's the perfect product for them. And I think that's pretty much the main insights and conclusions from these studies that we've conducted to understand the ecosystem as well as the customers. And we will be coming back to some of these results later on when we go through the roadmap. But thank you on my behalf and of course Peng's and Elina's behalf for your attention. Any questions or comments? Mikaela.
Yes, thank you, Juho. From TripAdvisor data, we saw that visitors in Lapland were the happiest ones. And then from Salmi data, we saw that as the expenditure increased, the happiness increased also for foreigners, not that much for Finnish persons, but especially for foreigners. So for me, it seems that there is a kind of wheel of fortune that in Lapland, these foreign tourists, they are ready to spend money for attractions. When they spend money on attractions, they are happy. Yeah. And because they spend money, there are opportunities for entrepreneurs to provide these attractions. So any comments how this wheel of fortune can be kind of speed up?
Yeah, that's a great notion, and indeed, exactly, I would say that that's an accurate description of what is happening. That Lapland is profiling itself in a way that there's a lot of tourists who are able to afford the experience they want, and that's the kind of like the from the economic perspective, the target group that's highly competed in the international markets. Now the question is that how do we extend that more into Finland? And I think, you know, if you don't have any opportunities for activities, any spending opportunities, then those people won't come in a way. And so you need to have these attractions first and activities first, and be able to offer these great experiences that might be even expensive, because that's what we are seeing, that maybe these people who are spending the most are also some kind of like innovators that are always looking for the newest thing and new destinations and new experiences and can afford that. But we really don't have kind of like the holy grail of making that happen elsewhere in Finland. For example, here in Eastern Finland, that could we replicate what Lapland has done? Yes, but it seems really difficult to do so. So I think it's fantastic job that's happened in Lapland, especially for the economic impact of tourism and attracting these kind of people who are having a high economic impact for the local community. Very good observation, and indeed we have analyzed data, and you have analyzed data a lot more than we are able and have time to present here in this seminar. But basically all of the data and all of these insights will be implemented into the roadmap that will be presented soon. Just checking if the audience has any questions. Nothing from, okay. Then we can have a coffee break, about half an hour, and we'll continue 12:15, looking at the Finnish wave phenomenon and looking into the future of the experience industry based on what we have so far gathered. And if you have any questions or comments, please use the chat. We are happy to chat with you during this break or after the break and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you. Coffee is served upstairs. computer clock is 2:15, so we can continue our seminar, and we have Sari Vainikainen next presenting some ideas for the future development of the experience industry. Sari, please.
So my title is this from Korean wave to Finnish wave. We have analyzed Korean wave, and Korean culture is very popular nowadays globally and in all aspects of culture, music, TV dramas. Okay, films, food, beauty products, and it has evolved through 3 different phases. And the first wave started already at the end of 19th, beginning of 20s. First, focusing on TV dramas and the Asian markets, and then second wave expanded to K-pop music, and the target markets extended to parts of Europe and across the Americas. And then we are now in this third wave, where the wide range of Korean culture is worldwide popular. We have studied this phenomenon from 2 different viewpoints. First, I'm going to go through this consumer journey of a real user and the experiences, and then discuss more about these Korean wave policies and how they have made this happening, and then conclude with learnings and how we can look at this in Finnish context. So we analyzed the real consumer journey, and which actually develops over the years. You can see this in this figure, the intensity of the interest divided between those dances and drama and language, etc. And for this user, the interest for Korean culture started at COVID time with K-dramas, and then interest evolved for the dances, language studies, food, and after 3 years for traveling South Korea. But interest has changed over the years. We developed this analytical framework, what we used for analyzing this consumer journey, and it's divided for physical, digital, and social spaces. And this is part of the table of our analysis. It was much longer, and they were defined these different touch points that the consumer had. Movies and K-dramas in this case, and dances, language, also food, music. And we used these different experience dimensions, physical experiences, including activities and behaviors, visiting places, visiting exhibitions, purchasing products, then mental processes relating to learning and analyzing content, and then emotional engagement, for example, watching performances, and sensory experiences and activities, for example, enjoying food. And then there's the important part is the social interaction and communities, whether it is the real friends or whether it's social media and connection with people with similar interests. So it's not only the one touch point that creates this interest for culture and consumer journeys. And this figure illustrates this real world network of the consumer, and each of these lines are the different individual users and how they consume Korean culture. So the first 2 in the bottom are the consumers who are interested very many different things in Korean culture. but then in the middle there is individual whose interest is more like the dances and K-pop music, and then there's user or consumer who are more involved with the arts and food, but not really having deep commitment with the Korean culture as such. And then a user who actually enjoys mainly food and cooking and the beauty products. So these consumer journeys, they develop based on users' interests, but they are also affecting to each other, and then these together form this wave. And this wave is even stronger when we take account all the online communities around this phenomenon, and this shows how the number of communities and the number of community members has increased over the years, and being already 23 to 125 million community members, mainly around K-pop and K-drama. But that's a lot of people interested in Korean culture. And then you can see how these members are divided between different regions. When we conclude the consumer engagement with K-culture, it is that it strongly connects with global audience through different cultural topics. Consumption happens across physical, digital, and social spaces. It happens online platforms, in-person events, and communities. And these journeys are ongoing and set by interests and social networks. And it is that consumers co-create values through these multiple touch points and influence their own and others' experiences. And then these communities and fandoms, they are important part of the success of this Korean wave. And when we talk about this analytical framework and more like this concept of consumer journey, or we can call it also never-ending experiences, so it goes beyond one controlled moments, and they are shaped of many interests, and it's not just the isolated moments, and thinking about the services what are offered, it's good to think about the whole consumer journey and understand that better. And it's also that this importance of these digital spaces that connect global and local experiences and going beyond traditional physical touchpoints, and so that we can enjoy Korean culture in Finland and someone else could enjoy Finnish culture multiple ways, although they are living abroad. But how this was then made possible, and what kind of actions and policies there were, and it started. The foundation was made in end of 19th with this Cultural Promotional Act and cultural powerhouse vision, and 2009 this Korean Creative Content Aided Agency KOCCA was established, and they under that agency there are all these different genres of Korean culture. And then it has been the strategies and visions they have updated, and the 2024 they even defined this Hallyu Act, Korean Wave law. They are defining all kind of things, but these figures, you can see the success of this Korean wave. The blue, there's 2022 sales Sales were about $115 billion and export $13 billion and tourism revenue 18.5 billion dollars. So they have managed to do something right. And here is more detailed about the different actions that has been made. And one thing is that it is integrated with digital innovations and technological integration. So starting from 2017, there are VR technologies, there are copyrights noticed, and then 2019 it was more, there was change from very strong state driven policies more to the market driven actions, and they supported these different adventure investment funds, for example. And early on, this branding Korean Wave was on the action lists. And it has continued with this new digital deal strategy, which includes all AI, big data, ICT development, and 21 they have invested a lot for metaverse development and for example developing this Seoul metaverse platform. And then nowadays this international cultural promotion is important thing, and there it's now all arts and content and tourism and sports under the gay culture. And when we made the literature review, there are which try to understand what has made this Korean Wave happen. There are these different points that South Korea systematically utilized this positive image to increase the geopolitical influence and tourist appeal. And then global audiences, they connect with Korean culture because of the shared values or common lifestyles or digital cultures that resonate across borders. Cultural distance refers how easily consumers relate to foreign cultural products. And although, for example, language can be a barrier, but it can also be a great appeal. And here this importance of these cultural entrepreneurs has been noticed, and they bridge gaps by adapting and translating meaning into the content that connects with the global audience. And this would not have happened without these global digital platforms or media platforms. So the Korean content is widely available through these different platforms, but also they are struggling with this balance, having also their own platforms and being able to control the revenues and also fair returns for local creators. And this Weverse platform is one nice example where Hype has managed to do. There's a very nice interaction with the artist and the fans, and also online live streams and all kind of things that support the community building. And then the role of technology is essential to and enabler for creating these experiences. Okay, then how to create Finnish Wave? We have made here some points. One is to develop this unified cultural framework and increase global presence of Finnish culture. And in addition to promote the cultural content, also to promote Finnish lifestyle offerings, whether it's design or fashion and so to able to create diverse consumer experiences and include brands also for this experience industries. And then implement these branded cultural initiatives. They could be festivals or other type of events that showcase Finnish culture abroad. And here these Finnish cultural institutes could support this type of actions. And then it's important to connect these regional offerings to this cultural framework to increase the collaboration and support global branding. Then there's this ensuring greater visibility and positioning of experience industry within research, development and innovation policy making in Finland, and improve coordination of decision making and policies at the national level as well as across regional and local authorities. And then also it's important to be able to follow up how the experience industry will develop, so regularly update data on the current state and the development, and so that this will support this evidence-based policy making. And then integrate experience industry into Finland's digital and metaverse strategies. There are these, and as metaverse strategies, they are at the moment more industry driven, but there are activities also for creative industries in the sector, but it is important to use these emerging technologies and invest in infrastructures so that we are able to create these immersive and hybrid experiences. And there are especially opportunities in the section of physical, digital, and social spaces, and to create these hybrid and interactive experiences and strengthen Finnish experience industry. And then this development of metaverses, and they could support also diverse activities like public services, culture, tourism, and education. That was something that is taken account in Seoul Metaverse, but I think it's also somehow in the Finnish Metaverse strategies. So thinking about, for example, cities as platforms. And then the final one, the importance of the content and the communities, and linking it to the Finnish culture with global audiences, and to support creating the stories about the Finnish identity, and also empowering these cultural entrepreneurs to bridge cultures and create stories. And then recognize this community building as key to export success, and how to support that through content and event and platforms. And here is also this engaging one opportunity is engage students and visitors and residents as cultural ambassadors. And then the importance of these digital platforms it's really big. So it's how to partner with or support creation of own platforms, and how to make sure that it's fair for the creators as well. Yeah, I guess I managed to do that on time.
There's a question, Mäkinen, Tia, Mari. Accident. Any questions about Korean wave or the Finnish wave, potential Finnish wave?
Yes.
Can you take the microphone?
You want here? Yes, thank you, Sari. I'm just wondering, you have already analyzed this Korean wave, but at this moment, do you have some at least basic idea to compare the advantage or disadvantage between the Korea culture and the Finnish culture, or maybe the whole country?
No, I don't think it's comparison with the cultures. I think it's the uniqueness of culture which we need to find from the Finnish culture itself. It's more like the way how policies could support or their activities and this kind of support. But we have our own culture and we are proud of it. It doesn't need to be compared to Korean culture.
Or anything like if you want to create a Finnish wave, we can learn from the Korean wave.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah. And I think also this that we take account all these different cultural elements, whether it's music or whether it's movies, but also expand it to the food and brands and this kind of thing. So
Yes.
and look at it as a whole and support this consumer journey type of making it possible to make these consumer journeys. So even the people have different interests, there would be something to offer.
Yes.
For many people, and they can just pick what they would like to have.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sari, also on my behalf. One thing we discussed already with the results was the role of technology in cultural industries. That it seems that based on the policies made in South Korea, that technology is there to like serve the cultural industries and experiences, and is seen as kind of like a tool. And there is a like purpose given to technology by its use cases in developing cultures and developing this Korean wave. And I think that's like somewhat different than we have in Finland, like this heavy technology focus, and technology is great and not that much about applying it and connecting it with culture. So I think like in South Korea, they have managed to combine culture with technology quite well. That do you have any insights on that how did they manage to do that?
At least they have supported the development of those with these policies and funding, and of course they have these big tech companies as well, and which is driving the development. But then they have also this they experiment many things, and it's happening quite fast, and they try things, and if it doesn't work, they try some other things, and I think that's something that we could learn.
But that's a good notion, that they have companies like Samsung and like big car companies and like big global brands that are all connected in some way or another, and recognize this importance of Korean wave and Korean culture. And I think that's great that it's not just the culture people who are rooting and upholding the culture and developing culture, but there's these big companies, big brands, everybody involved in this initiative and this collaboration. And I think that's one of the key things to take home from Korean wave.
And they are also thinking about this measuring the experience industry or creative industry. I think they are a good example, because as you see those graphs, we are able to get data from year by year, and there are the organizations who by the law needs to do this kind of surveys, and that way they are able to get feedback as well. But this that you mentioned, these big companies, at one point they have in policies that they use these big companies as to be utilize them to make this creative industry further. And it was kind of interesting that there was, for example, Samsung was responsible about the fashion industry, which was not at all their business. But I guess they did this at some time, but then they let it be, because I think even these big companies noticed that it's not their core business, and then they use some other methods. But now they are actually all involved, and when you think about those big car companies, they have very nice interactive presence as well, and they collaborate with cultural artists and groups and
bring forward the Korean culture and Korean uniqueness and Korean aspects. And I think that's one of the strengths, that they are clearly like almost nationalistically proud of their culture. Excellent. Hey, thank you so much, Sari, for your presentation. And now we have pleasure to continue with another presentation from you, but very much connected to the measurements and the data that you were mentioning about in the Korean wave example. That how would the data for Finnish wave or the Finnish experience industry development really look like? And I'll let you to tell more about this dashboard that we have created for this project.
And actually, this dashboard combines all of that. And when we think of the presentations that Ben and Mika and Juho have had today, so this combines this data and the views to the same dashboard, just showing that the data sources, this has been mentioned in the presentations, but these are the data sources behind the figures that I'm going to show. But once this link is available, you are also able to look at the data sources and the descriptions of them, and also the view about what kind of data different data sources provide. But then when we go to the figures, you can here you can see the experience industries by sector. Now it's the total figures, and here these colors are now explaining the colors in the visualization, and there we can see that the food and beverages are quite dominating or bigger. They have the bigger share, and the way you can browse this is to select the sector, and then you can see the number of revenues and companies and employees in that sector. Then we have information by categories, and here we have also this top level creative content, creative service, events and cultural services, which is from creative economy definitions, and here we can see that for creative content, these sectors is now this gaming, audiovisual, music, and publishing. So gaming and publishing has big revenues, and then we can see the creative industries, including architecture, design, strategy, marketing, and technological innovations. And then we have these events and cultural services, including also this food and accommodation and passenger transport, which are not actually part of this creative economy definitions, but which are part of our experience industry definitions. Then this information can be looked at also by regions. And Uusimaa has quite big share of revenues and companies. And then also then there comes this Pirkanmaa and Southwest Finland, Turku, Tampere, and Helsinki. But this works same way that if you want to see the figures for the region, you are able to look at them. Then we can look at these top categories, which I mentioned earlier. You can also see here what is part of the which top categories. And here we can see that events and cultural services is bringing most of the revenue in every region. And it's being especially high in Åland and Lapland. You can look at this also by employees or number of companies. And then you can look at the information even in more detail. So this is now the share of sectors inside the region. And there are also this specialization, you could say, in between different regions. So for example, Åland, they have this passenger transportation and services. It's big because they have these cruising ships and this type of activities. And then there are, for example, in Lapland and in Kainuu, bigger share of arts, cultural and recreation activities, mainly focusing this recreation activities. And then you can see that food and beverage, we need food, not depending on where we live. I'm not going to discuss about this thing now, but then there's also this summary of indicators by regions. So now these figures are for Uusimaa, and in these parentheses there's the ranking, and the one is the best, and so there's first this revenues and number of companies, but also these performance measures and a satisfaction review rate and trip durations, which are from these different platforms, this information, and then the network analysis that Peng presented us, and this the cooperatorship, followership, and influencership. But we could look at, for example, North Karelia and how it's doing. Okay, here this trip duration is a bit higher than others. But then you can also look at the differences or the top 3 regions by metrics, and it's not surprised that in this revenues number of companies and employees and value added, there are Uusimaa, Pirkanmaa, and Southwest Finland in the top. But then there are the differences in these performance measures, Åland, Lapland, and Satakunta, and satisfaction, Kainuu, Central Finland, and yeah. And then we have this network graphs that can be browsed as well. It works so that way that you first select the sector, what you want to look at, and then you can select the region. For example, now it's Event Solutions and South Karelia. So there is, for example, it's Saimaa as a node. These colors are now referring to these regions. And when we look at the South Savo, there's Visit Savonlinna. And in North Karelia, it's this Visit Karelia is having a lot of connections and collaboration. We can look at, for example, also these arts, cultural and recreation activities where, for example, in Lapland. So there is this Ylläs and Husky and Rocky Hockey. And then Kainuu, which have Vuokatti and Holiday Club, and for example. So that's where you can look at the different connections and by sector and by region. Now we will go to the roadmap, but this will be still updated, but these are the policy briefs that a couple of them has already published and others are on the pipeline. But they explain some of these figures or what are our points based on data, then in more detail.
Thank you, Sari. And there was a question of where online is this analysis available, and I told that we will publish the dashboard at VTT website by the end of June.
Yeah, probably.
Hopefully.
Hopefully end of June or at least latest in the August. Yeah.
So even though our project ends end of June, this platform will be available and hosted by VTT also in the future. So you don't need to be worried about that the data would go away anytime soon, and maybe even hopefully we would be able to develop this further on in different kind of projects, because this means that we have good data to measure what is going on, and we have developed the technology and the platforms to share that data and analyze that data basically in real time even. So now the question is, how do we continue from here? What would be your ideas or wishes or hopes for the future? Maybe somebody in the audience can help us make dreams come true. What do you think?
I thought you asked the audience.
No, I asked you that. What would you like to do with the platform?
I think it would be nice to have these. What are the changes over the years? So I think this continuation for the analysis, and then I think that, as you mentioned earlier, we have so much data, and not all of that is part of this, and they won't be during this project. But so there's so many things that you can analyze based on the data what has gathered from different data sources. So yeah,
and this is one of the things that we also notice, that we have some data available that are useful, but we also have data available that are not so useful, and we have data not available that would be useful. So it's in the next section in the roadmap, this is something that we'll look closer in identifying that this is a great start in a way, but then there's more data we need, and some data we don't need that much, and it's very interesting to hear what everybody thinks about the data and its possibilities to analyze and keep track of what's happening in experience industry, because that was one of the things that you mentioned in the Korean wave, that it basically everything starts with the data, and that they have these laws and regulations in place to ensure that they get the right kind of data and are able to use it for the purposes of developing the wave. Any other questions for Sari? Elisa comments, great work, nice visualization, and I have to agree, it's very nice how this dashboard is turning out and visualizes our data in a completely different way than traditional reports or PDF documents, and anybody can interact with the data. So very nice job. All right, thank you, Sari.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I would almost like to invite the whole team to the stage with the final presentation of today. When we started the project, the idea was kind of like, at least in this project, to develop understanding of the current state of the experience industry, so that we know that what are the next steps to take and how to develop this roadmap for the future. And that's what we have been aiming to do, is look at all the data and all the activities that we have done from all of the presentations and take this zoomed out big picture perspective that, okay, how do we move forward from here? If we want to develop experience industry from the current state into the future, what does it require? And the basic approach that we have, the logic behind all of this is very much connected to international competitive advantage, that we have to be somehow differentiated and generate value for the customers in order to be competitive internationally, which of course then yields income and well-being in Finland. The experience industry and Finnish experiences must meet the customer needs, and they must do that better than competitors, or then even create a completely new market that doesn't really exist right now. And for that, we need to identify service configurations that customers want but are not catered at the moment. So we need in-depth customer understanding. What are the gaps there that might attract people and be useful and solve their problems? For that, we need innovations, and that's basically the cornerstone of this whole project, that it might be Metaverse Technologies are developing, environment is changing, all of these things are happening all the time. So we need innovative companies, we need innovative people in those companies, and we need policies in place that support innovations in the experience industry. We have identified that these typical small-scale innovations happen every day. Company specific innovations happen every day in a normal collaboration. But if we are looking for completely new ideas and innovations result from those ideas, we have to do more cross-sectional innovations and cross-regional innovations than what we are currently doing. And as the data has showed, really the collaboration still is very regional in the experience industry, and we are mostly talking about industries separately. Like, I have been working in tourism research for 15 years almost, already. And this project has been extremely inspiring for me, because now the scale is bigger, and it's not just the tourism industry, but we can see tourism as one part of the customer experience. It's not just one purchase of tourism product, but it's the whole experience that the customers have with the brands and different kind of service providers and experience providers. And it really widens the perspective when you start looking at customers and what they need, instead of just what is your industry and how you are working in that industry. And this is also highly supported by existing innovation literature that stresses the importance of bringing different kinds of networks and ideas together. We also know that experience industry innovations require a high level of trust among the network members in the ecosystem, and also congruence, meaning that they have to share a vision, they have to share a similar goal, and then work towards that goal with the people that they trust. How we generate that trust, enable that trust to be developed in these relationships is something that's concerning for all of the ecosystem actors, so to say. And if we do this then enables complex service product innovations, completely new configurations that cater for customer needs in ways that competitors cannot, and that generate customer value that customers have not received before. And that's what innovation should be really aimed at. And through that logic, we finally might reach some kind of competitive advantage in the marketplace. And this has been kind of like the approach and the logic we have been following in this project, and also when we have been putting together this experience industry success roadmap. And this is the first time we are presenting the roadmap, so we would be very much interested in hearing your feedback and ideas and how realistic things are. This is based on the research we have been doing. This is based on the activities that many of the actors, like Business Finland, for example, is to some extent already doing. This is based on the literature that we have been reading, and we've been trying to put things together and to form this 4-step process in a way to develop the experience industry. The first step, well, let's start first from the logic, and something we've encountered and discussed quite a lot is that it cannot be this like top-down approach where government decides that this is now what we're gonna do. They tested it out in South Korea. To some extent, yes, it can work, but it worked as a platform for companies to bring forth their own motivations and their own goals. And that's why it's imperative that the companies, experience industry companies, are interested in this vision that is discussed, and also maybe even that the vision comes from these companies that are operating in the experience industry. The experience industry model or the roadmap is built on 3 levels, the macro, meso, and micro levels, meaning that we have macro level strategic vision on a national level. We have tactical implementation that supports that vision in a regional level. And then, of course, we have companies who are executing that in everyday business. And success for us, and this is our definition, it comes from data-driven innovation, that we understand customers, both quantitative understanding as well as qualitative understanding of the customers and who the customers are also. It transforms customer insights into world-class experiences. I think this is what has happened in Lapland, that they really have world-class experiences there, that people are extremely satisfied. And this is something that we have to be able to replicate and develop in rest of the country. Global communities are really important. We cannot work by ourselves. We have to be connected, not just domestically, but also globally, for different kind of digital communities, physical communities across different digital and physical spaces, even through the metaverse, once the technologies develop and change. And we'll come back to defining the success later on at the end of this model. But these are kind of like the. Can you, Peng, turn off the microphone? If there's somebody with a microphone. The 4 steps then to make this happen are all structured into this macro, meso, and micro level, as well as key measurements for each of these 4 steps that we know what to track. And like they have in South Korea, that there is a legal framework for data collection, and data is seen as an investment enabling innovation and management of the experience industry instead of just an expense. And this is something that we can take from Korean case, that in order to realize the vision, we have to set the metrics that know how well we are doing it. And in Korea, they have set the metrics in this way, and ensuring that they are collecting the right kinds of data and know what the right questions are. And this is very important part of this foundation building, where we have to understand the ecosystem and we have to understand the customers. And I would say that this project that we have now done is definitely part of this foundation building. It's the activities we are now doing, and this roadmap are part of this foundation building, how we move forward from here. We can have many activities also on regional level to know what kind of experiences the companies in that region are providing and how consumers are perceiving these experiences, what are the strengths and weaknesses. With the data, we could even compare the regions like we have in the Power BI system. We can compare the rankings in the experience industry and see which regions are doing well in different aspects. We have some data on regional and national level that is already usable, but we also know that we don't have this comprehensive data set that really would help us to understand the customers or the ecosystem, but we are still developing that. We need also in micro level that companies are interested in developing this national collaborative model of experience industry innovations, working together in research, working together in understanding the customer, sharing the data, and driving innovations that way. Really, the approach has to be, and there's no other option than having customer value as the main central point of this innovation ecosystem development. We have different measurements for this initial phase, that how do we know that we are doing well in this foundation building. We need better coverage of customer insights. We need data infrastructure and Power BI platforms or whatever platforms they have to understand what's the current state, how we are doing, how we are developing over time. And then, of course, it would be great to have indicators to know how industry is organizing and coming behind this initiative and pathway, and who are the actors and what they are doing. Like the network analysis is giving us some directions towards this. And this whole thing is highly unlikely to start if experience industry companies are not motivated to do this. But of course, ministries and regional governments have really important role in supporting and enabling networking and collaboration in regions and sectors. Once the foundations have been built, it's time to develop the networks both globally as well as domestically, and start testing out pilots with different kinds of funding models that enable this Korean approach of testing out things and doing things in rapid schedule, but also doing things in longer durations and and kind of like there can be a lot of tactical activities within strategic funding schemes and initiatives that make it more agile in a way that we don't set the project goals that you have to know immediately and exactly how the project will run for the next 5 years. But the projects have to have leeway in order to enable these kind of rapid developments and testings to happen. Networking abroad, especially digital collaborations and different kind of partnerships with major industry players who would be interested in finding business opportunities in Finnish culture and experience industries. We also have different ways at the regional level, meso level, to support this network building. I would say that especially collaboration between regions, that we might have a lot of regional activities currently, but how do we connect more and more people across regions and across industries would be really, really important. And this is something we didn't measure, but we could have measured, is how our networks are connected internationally. We have the data that Peng has been analyzing is just network of Finnish companies. But of course, we would have the possibility of analyzing the networks of Finnish companies abroad and how they are connecting to foreign companies. And this kind of metric would be really important to us to understand how networked abroad internationally our experience industry network is. How many pilot projects have been run, what are their results, and how collaborative different activities are. Especially here in network generation, as I said, regional development companies and Business Finland would play a major role, especially as they are providing a lot of funding for the experience industry. The next step would be this innovation acceleration, that we are testing out pilots and seeing what works and what doesn't work, what has traction among international consumers. This would be really, really important to know. You know, technologies change, as said million times. Consumers are always looking for something and testing out novel ways of doing things and consuming. And we have to be able to have rapid innovations when consumers are changing. Absolutely, we need research in supporting innovations, but we also need data infrastructure at the macro level to know better how we are doing. At the regional level, there could be and especially like regional specialization and some kind of like innovation activities would be important to develop at this point. And companies have to look for innovation opportunities among, for example, customer complaints, customer problems, have to be aware of what's happening among international customers all the time. And for that, of course, we need data-driven approach and understanding. And how well we recognize and are able to fit the innovations to solve customer problems, how fast we are developing innovations, and what kind of value and for whom we are generating with these innovations would be really important to follow. And in innovation acceleration, typically internationally, universities and research institutes play a really big role. And I think this is something that could be thought about, for example, at the university funding models, that how well they enable universities to accelerate innovations and how they are rewarded for that. And I think there's a gap in current policies regarding universities as innovation agents. And the final step then would be this global expansion through community building. we would have new products, new services that are meeting customer needs, providing different kind of value for customers that no one else, because this kind of cross-sectoral and cross-regional collaboration is not that typical across the world. So it might be really a source of competitive and competitive advantage. It comes from maybe we are a small nation, so we could do something like that better than others, for example. Regionally, strategies, especially for digital channels, whether they are metaverse channels or other digital channels, is fine, but the idea would be to expand the innovations that have been developed on a global scale. We need companies to collaborate in community building in digital and physical spaces, including metaverse potentially, and work a lot together to generate these digital and physical experiences. And that requires different industries. Some industries are really good at the digital space. Some industries like tourism are really good at the physical space. And it does require cross-sectoral collaboration. And here, basically, all of the variables in the first 3 steps would be explaining why we are doing well in this last step. And these would be kind of like the ultimate success measurements, which we have to decide. And I think this would be part of the strategic vision, that what are the ultimate metrics that we are striving for, whether they be export revenues, whether they be global rankings, recognition, branding, or maybe even local economic impacts. But still, these would be the goals where all of the activities are leading. And in that case, like ministries, Visit Finland, different export promotion companies, local regional companies, development companies would play a major role. And what this means in practice, and what we have been thinking about based on these results that we have, is further development of the Finnish wave concept. That it might be these kind of steps that we need to take in order to generate this Finnish wave. Maybe we need a platform for Finland that brings together industries and different sectors and different regions. So now, for example, when looking at tourism, you have tourism in North Karelia, and tourism in Savo, and tourism in Lapland, and tourism in Uusimaa, and they are very regionally and sectorally specific websites and platforms. What if we start bringing all of those together and collaborate more across industries, bringing events, bringing design products, bringing music and games into the tourism platforms, etc., or developing completely new platforms for the Finnish wave, where all of the companies are collaborating and developing together one platform, is something that we think will concretely lead us towards this direction. And if you would be interested in joining us and thinking what the Finnish wave could mean and how we could develop it, we are more than happy to welcome members and interested participants to think together with us how we continue from here. So our goal is to develop new projects and find especially industry partners that would be interested in launching a Finnish wave that would promote Finnish products, Finnish culture, Finnish services, Finnish tourism for international or markets, because we feel like, and the data we are collecting right now is showing that there's a lot of good things also happening in Finland, and you can just look at Eurovision or our products and services abroad at this moment to see that there is traction and Finnish culture is interesting, and we have to find ways how we utilize that and benefit from that in a way that creates value for international customers, especially, and through them to Finnish people. So if you're interested in joining the initiative and working with us in developing this, we are looking for different kind of partners. Please contact me and I'll be happy to start the discussions how we can work together to generate the Finnish wave that really needs actors and companies, micro level, regional level organizations and actors, as well as national level organizational actors to work together across different sectors, industries, regions to make something like this happen. I would really like to thank on behalf of the whole Metaverse team for your participation, and we would be really interested in hearing what you think about this, what kind of initial reaction these ideas cause and generate, and how we can take this further, or should we take this further and how. Thank you so much. Right, great. Yes, thank you, Elise. Very good field in the research work. I feel like we are building a strong foundation, but really now we would really need more partners to join us on this trip. Please contact me if you have any questions. You have the email address there. If you're interested in joining us, developing co-innovating with us, as Elisa says, we definitely have a co-innovation project in mind for creative industries, for tourism industries, bringing together different industries in this way. If there's no further questions, we are way ahead of schedule, and I think that's perfectly fine for everybody. Thank you for attending. Hope to see you around. Bye.